All right, here we go. We're joined by Alonzo Williams, the Godfather. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing today?
Man, we're so excited about the book, N.W.A, Not Without Alonzo.
Alonzo, baby.
Just hitting the streets, man.
Just hit
Great celebration. I know it's a long time coming.
35 years and 22 months.
Take us back to the beginning. I know, of course, you ran the club and the groups and the DJ crews. How did you start getting involved in music? How old were you, and who were your musical heroes at that point you started?
You know what? I fell in love with DJing first and foremost as a kid, going to parties at Campanella Park over in Compton. I saw they would have sock hops, and I saw this guy had these turntables. And he had the party rocking, and I wanted to do what he did, and it was unheard of then outside of being from a radio station. And shortly after that, I went to high school, and I was able to get a scholarship to go to a radio school. Okay. And I went to broadcast school.
Was it the Columbia School or which one?
It was called the Don Tracy School of Broadcasting. Okay, Don Tracy was a hot jock in L.A. and he had a hookup with one of the federal programs. Okay. And they taught broadcasting over in L.A. Him and another gentleman by the name of Jay Rich. Jay Rich was a big jazz aficionado, and he took me under his wing. Jay Rich more so than anybody because I had a very bad speech impediment, and he was deaf on articulation, and he taught me how to open my mouth and use my tongue and do all kind of other things, along with how to operate turntables. And I got my third class broadcast license from them at 19 years old.
So what year was this?
And we talking about
late
disco
70s?
era, dude. We talking about 76, 77.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about
the bicentennial.
bell bottoms, yes. Okay. And in doing that, I took that, and they told me one thing that always stuck with me. You'll never get rich just being a club DJ. Yeah. And I was a club DJ for a while, doing moguls, and I started to realize I was getting pimped because I'm making these guys $2 or $3 grand a night. They give me $60, $150, whatever the case may be. So shortly after that, I started promoting my own shows, and that's when I became a club owner / DJ, and my whole life changed. And that's when I fell in love with the music and the money.
Wow. So who were some of the groups that were happening back then that you really were clicking with?
Come on now, I can go back to the disco era. We talking about the Bee Gees and Sky and all
Casey and the Sunshine Band and Parliament. And
all these guys were rocking. There was no hip hop yet. So I came in the game in the end of disco, into the transition of funk, right on the tip of hip hop.
Of course.
Okay. So I'm like the missing link for all of the transitions of music from R&B, because when I opened the Eve After Dark, we still would play some disco type music, like Above the Clouds. Y'all don't know nothing about this. I'm going so far back. Only you could probably understand what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yep.
I'm going back to records that was funky, but they were considered disco. And if you listen to some of the music today, you hear that same type of beat. They call it club music now, but it's the same big to four on the floor beat. But we were doing that back in the day. Then we had I think Cameo and George Clinton was doing the real funky stuff like Funk and Slave,
Ohio
Players. All these things, these were the dance grooves at that time. Brass Construction, like I say Sky, Barcades. These were the groups that was rocking the dance floors back then. And we were, because I was so active as a DJ, when I got in my club, we brought these records right to the club. And along with Sugar Hill Gang, Curtis Blow, and stuff like that. And for a while, it was a nice little blend. And after a while, hip-hop kind of took over, and that's how we made this transition.
Well, as we know, a lot of those changes were very subtle. Like you say, this music kind of blended into this one. This one blended into that one. It wasn't so cut and dry.
No, not at all. Even the styles were kind of blended. You know, you had the Funketeers, and you had the Prince come in right behind the Rick James, although they were almost the same thing, but they weren't the same thing. You know, Rick James was funky, Prince was real sexy, but they got the punk funk, and you got the Prince funk, okay?
Right.
You know, you playing Head against Mary Jane, and you know, they one is slow, almost a cha-cha, and the other one's a hardcore dance cut, but you got these two musical weirdos at that time, you know, doing their thing, and everybody's loving both of them. So it was a much more creative musical time for for me as a DJ and a club owner.
People were very open-minded. If it moved them, they loved it.
Hey, they didn't care what it was. They didn't care if Prince looked like he might have been a little sweet. They didn't care. Rick James, all of them was debatable back then. All they cared about was the music.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was about. All about the music.
So how did we get into starting Eve After Dark? How did that all develop?
I was DJing at Alpine Village in Torrance.
Oh yeah.
One day, my dad came over my house. Well, I lived in my mom's house. She had passed. I was in the house. My pops had a key. He walks in my room, and I got about $600 on the bed. He's like, "What in the hell did you get all this damn money from?" And I'm, "Hey man, I was DJing." And my old man's an old school guy. He like, ain't that much DJing in the world. He thought I was selling dope or something else illegal.
Mm-hmm.
If I catch you selling dope, I'm gonna kick your ass. It didn't help the fact that I lived in a dope infested neighborhood. Yeah. So I said, "Man, I'm at Alpine Village." He knew where it was. I said, "Come by there and check me out. I got to dance in 2 weeks." And sure enough, he came by. He saw what we were doing, and he was highly impressed. And I talked to him about the numbers, and that's a lot of damn money. So his friend had just built a second floor over his nightclub, and he introduced me to his friend Jeffrey Harris, and two of them got together, and they sat behind the desk, and they both threatened to kick my ass if I gave him any problem. My dad says, "If you give him any problem, he's gonna kick your ass, and I'm gonna kick your ass for giving him a problem." Mm-hmm. And that was 1979. I just got fired from my last job at Record Shack. It was a record distributor. Okay. And I moved to Eve After Dark and opened up on June 22nd, 1979. And I was 22 years old. And my dad looked over my shoulder for about 4 or 5 months. I had an investor. It's all in the book. I had an investor, a female investor. And we made it happen. And it wasn't until Gerald Busby. See, I can give you these names. You know these names I'm talking about. Yep. Okay. Gerald Busby had
NWA Records.
Yep, yes. He had a brother-in-law that had a record pool. I belonged to the record pool. And I was in Gerald's office when Cameo was coming to town. I was sitting there, I was taking my buddy to dropping him off, or picking up some records. And he says, "Hey man, Cameo's coming to town. They have nowhere to go on Thursday night. Where can they go?" And I got a club. Okay. "Where's your club?" He told me. I told him where it was. He says, "Cool, send him down there." And he didn't send Larry Blackman, okay, or the lead singers. As you remember, back in the day,
big bands, 9, 10 guys.
They sent the horn section,
mm-hmm.
And because they gave me some flats, okay, I like talking to you. You of my generation.
Of
you know
course.
what a flat is, okay?
Course.
They gave me some flats. Flats are one side of an album.
Yeah.
And on the flats,
used for promotional purposes, only, displays.
Okay? And they gave me some flats, and on the flats, the girls at the club can see these guys were the same guys on the album cover. That's all they needed. From that point on, Eve After Dark became the hottest spot in LA, and we rocked it for about 3.5, 4 years nonstop. We didn't look back to about 4 years, and people got kind of a little tired. We had to reinvent ourselves, but for the most part, that was the kickoff for Eve After Dark.
And this is Crenshaw Boulevard?
No, this is Avalon, El Segundo. We in the hood. We right on the outskirts of Compton, Watts, Gardena, and LA. So we right there in the middle of the unincorporated area, and we getting clientele from Compton, Watts, Gardena, everybody. Okay. So we're right there in the middle. We're making it happen.
Amazing. So at that point, you started the DJ cruise. You started rotating DJs. This was your entertainment.
I was a solo mobile DJ for about 2 or 3 years, and I had a crew of guys that would help me carry my equipment. And these guys got nicknamed the Wrecking Crew. Mm-hmm. And when I moved to Eve After Dark, I still wanted to have the Wrecking Crew because my original company name was Disco Construction, named after Brass Construction. That was one of my favorite bands. Yeah. And when I got to Eve After Dark, I took the Wrecking Crew and made them the infrastructure, like the Playboy Bunnies were to the Playboy Club. Mm-hmm. So my DJs became my cleanup guys, the guy who ran the bar. We were like the infrastructure of the Eve After Dark. You had to have a jacket. It was a privilege to be a member of the Wrecking Crew. And later we expanded that to some girls, and you couldn't buy the jackets, although I should have sold them, but you couldn't buy them. You had to earn them. And that's how the Wrecking Crew, then we took the DJs, created a record, and then that record, we found out there was another Wrecking Crew in Chicago. So we had to change the spelling, and we added world class. This is '84, because I recall distinctively during the Olympics, world class swimmer, world class athlete, world class this. So I added the world class and messed up the spelling along your Theater Fly. That's how you got a world class wrecking crew. And that was me. Clientele, Unknown DJ, Yella, and Dr. Dre.
Yeah. So talk about the first times again meeting Yella and Dre, because I know they were just the kids on the street at the time, but I mean, talk about them developing as DJs and you starting to recognize that they had flavor.
Yella came first.
Yeah.
Yella was just a clientele of Eve After Dark.
Okay.
He was a Dr. Rock, who was a guy out of Texas. He moved to Texas, I'm sorry. Dr. Rock was one of my jocks, and Yella was one of his fans. Dr. Rock moved to Texas. Yella slid into his slot. He wasn't a great DJ in the beginning, contrary to what people will tell you. He was not a great DJ. I was the heavy hitter. These guys were my opening act for the most part. I'm the one that had the most experience. So if they ever got in trouble, I would come and relieve them.
Right.
Shortly after that, maybe about 2 years after that, a year or so after that, maybe Dre came along. He showed up with Eazy. And this story is well known, well documented. Showed up with Eazy, not dressed properly, because at that time the dress code of the party age was Morris Day chic, skinny ties, baggy pants. They showed up some jeans. That ain't gonna fly. Dre comes back a couple weeks later, skinny tie on, and he also tells me who his family is. I know his whole family. I know his dad, his mom, his uncles, the whole 9 yards. So I let Dre in just to piss off Eazy.
Yeah.
And Eazy sat outside, and we had a little friendly exchange of words, and he still kept his ass outside. But what was interesting that same night is that Dre ended up on the turntables. And I tell you right now, if you waterboarded my ass, I couldn't tell you how he did it. But he ended up on the turntables. He did this signature mix, and it was so dope. Everybody stopped dancing just to watch him mix. And there's a couple of clips on YouTube that show that mix. And I immediately asked him to join the wrecking crew. Join the crew. He worked with my boy Unknown for a while on some projects. Then he came over to the wrecking crew. And
so we're talking mid-'80s?
We're talking about mid-'80s. And the first record we made was about Dr. Dre, because he had the Doctor theme. We could do so much with that. And sometimes people would even bill us as Dr. Dre and the World Class Record Crew. We hated that shit with a passion. But he always thought it was funny.
But when you heard the concept of Dr. Dre, you thought there was something we could work, we could market it.
I mean, even in my catalog, there's like 3 or 4 songs doctor related. House Calls, Surgery, He's Biotic. All these songs are things that we came up with.
Play on the name.
We can play on the doctor thing. It's real hard to play on Alonzo, okay, or
right.
DJ Yella. But the doctor thing, there's a whole lot of things you can do with it.
You can work it.
You can work it.
Amazing. So now talk about the fleshing out of the World Class Wrecking Crew, where you became original music, eventually getting the record deal.
Well, nobody would give us a record deal back in the day. We started off being bootleggers, actually. We made underground mixed
mixtapes,
mixed 12 inches.
Oh, mixed vinyl.
Party mixes, and I got tired of looking on my shoulder, so we decided to go legit. Made a song called Slice. It did okay. It was hood platinum, okay, about 2,000 or 3,000 copies. Then we got influenced by Kraftwerk and Soul Sonic Force. We sped up our beat, because initially we were trying to sound like Run DMC. But we got to Surgery. We kind of sped up our beat, and that's the one that got us the most record play. And Surgery was our opening song. From there we had Juice, and that's the one that really took us to the next level, because now we have 2 moderate hits, and they're all getting radio play. And that's what took us over the hump. But what people forget, a lot of people forget, our biggest cut before Turn Off the Lights was our ballad called Lovers. And it was like Float On. It was the 4 of us doing our thing with Mona Lisa singing. And I don't hear it as much as I used to, but that was the cut that got us on the road. That's the cut that got us in the club, on the radio. And once we dropped Turn Off the Lights, the programmers kind of forgot about that. hopefully after this interview they will remember.
So at what point did K-Day, the original AM station, start up? And before that, what were the stations in town that were starting to play?
Well, people said K-Day was the first one to play hip-hop, but it wasn't. KGFJ was the first station to play hip-hop, okay? When Greg Mack came to town, Greg Mack, he was in town maybe 10 days. I was one of the first people he met. I just left Eve After Dark. I was contemplating going to Dudos. I knew I had to have more support, radio support, promotional support for Dudos because it was a much bigger venue. Greg and I met, went to lunch, hung out for a while, and I started doing Dudos. I was advertising on K-Day, and Greg came to a couple of Dudos shows and realized it had great potential, and because I was making the mixed 12 inches, he started using the mixed 12 inches on his 5 o'clock traffic jam. Dre and Yella would do mixes every day for the traffic jam, okay? And in doing that, we would get a promotional tag before and after the traffic jam, Wrecking Crew live at Dudos Music Center, 135th and Central, every Friday night, before and after. And when that happened, Dudos blew up because the traffic jam was at 5 o'clock in mid-traffic. People would sit home and listen to this thing just to try and record it. Then they would come to see us at Dudos, and it just made for a hell of a connection. Then shortly after that, Greg started bringing us acts. He'd bring us LL Cool J, a young 17-year-old LL Cool J. He would bring us Jermaine, I forgot the guy's name. He had a song called "You Don't Have to Take Your Clothes Off."
Jermaine Stewart.
Jermaine Stewart, Jermaine Stewart, Midnight Star. Anybody that was in town, they would come to Dudos. We had New Edition. And we had New Edition. It was a traffic problem that night. These guys were like 14, 15 years old.
Right.
That was the first act. That
Bobby
was the first
Brown and everybody.
We had performed for. And they came to Dudos for the after party. And it was just off the chain. So Dudos blew up. But at the same time, Mogul was shipping our records around the country. I'm getting calls for Wrecking Crew to go on shows. So we eventually left Dudos. Greg started doing a skating rink out in the valley, and we hit the road. And we came back. Dudos was sold, and Skateland was taken over by somebody else. But we had a hell of a ride. You know, it was a hell of a ride when we were rolling. You couldn't beat it for that time. You couldn't beat it for that time.
So how many independent records before Epic came calling?
First album, they sent a headhunter looking for us. Okay, they sent a headhunter looking for us, and we met with Larkin Arnold, and it was all the heavyweight acts from Mogul. It was us, Wrecking Crew, Bobby Jimmy and the Critters, Egyptian Lover, and the LA Dream Team.
Okay.
We were all sitting in the lobby at CBS at the same time, like a dentist office.
And this is over at Century City.
Over at Century City. And they had, everybody had a meeting a half hour apart. And Wrecking Crew got the deal that day. It was $100,000, and it changed our life in more ways than we could imagine, good and bad.
So looking back, what do you think the elements was that made you get the deal over those others?
Because we were like the missing link of hip-hop, the missing link between hip-hop and R&B, because we did have ballads and we did have dance tracks. We weren't just a hip-hop group. We had singers and things of that nature. So that made us somewhat more palatable for a R&B label like Epic.
Yeah.
But we also were cutting edge on the hip-hop situation. So, but they still didn't know how to market us. We were so ahead of our time. They still didn't know how to market us. So we got dropped after a year. But I came right behind that with Turn Out the Lights, and nobody knew we weren't with CBS no more. Nobody paid attention to the label. They just started playing it, and the song's hot. It doesn't matter what label it is. It blew up like nobody's business. But I have no group. I have no crew at that time. By that time, Dre and Yella got attitudes with some other niggas, and and they left the Wrecking Crew, and I was on my own with a hit record. Now talk about Michelle, where she came in. Michelle, man, she came to me I had just come off a tour, Sunday night, and a buddy of hers actually, a mutual friend, called, hey man, I got this girl I want you to hear. I got this girl I want you to hear. I'm like, dude, I got a date. I just got off a tour. I got to go see my girl. Oh man, please. Come, I said, man, hurry up. So he come by the house, we go in the studio, and she wouldn't sing. And I'm like, dude.
And with that squeaky voice, you had no idea she could sing.
Right. She wouldn't talk. She wouldn't sing or nothing. And she finally turned her back and started singing. I'm like, what the hell? And I walked around to make sure she didn't have a microphone or a recorder or something in her breast or
Playback.
something. And she kept singing in front of me. I'm like, wow, she's phenomenal.
She was that shy.
She was that shy. She wouldn't sing in front of me. And when she turned around and I started talking to her, and she opened her mouth, like, what the fuck happened?
Minnie Mouse came out.
Fucking Mouse, what the fuck happened? And time passed, I said, I got her number, and I got ready to record Turn Off the Lights. And the girl I normally use, who I actually wrote the song for, Mona Lisa, was not available at the time. And I was kind of under a deadline. And I thought about Miss Chalet. I gave her a call, and she was available. I picked her up, took her to the studio. Contrary to popular belief, what everybody says, including her, she did not do it the first time. Nobody wanted to do the song. Dre didn't want to do the song. Yella, man, wait for Mona. Everybody wanted to wait for Mona, but because I was the CEO, and I'm spending my money, and I said, we got to make this work now. I don't have time to keep playing around. So the engineer, Donovan, was able to piece it together and made it work. Okay.
And we're talking about Donovan Smith.
Donovan Smith,
Audio Achievements.
Yes.
So you were using that studio before Dre or Yella even.
Oh yeah, that was my studio. So another guy turned me on to the studio when Donovan was just starting off. When he was just a tracking studio, he didn't have a full mixing board. I was at the Audio Achievements. It was close to the house in Torrance, and I'm the one that introduced Eazy and Dre them to Audio Achievements. Yes.
Okay.
I'm the one that introduced Jerry Heller to Eazy-E.
Of course.
I'm the one that introduced Eazy to Makola, Eazy to Greg Mack, Eazy. I mean, there's nothing that did not come from Lonzo. And I hate to sound like it's all about me, but shit, so much happened. It's hard for it not to be.
Yeah, well, we're looking at the family tree. You know, you got to figure out where the roots and the branches came from.
Every tree has its roots. Okay.
Talk about that meeting of, Eazy wanting to meet you, and of course you were already dealing with Jerry.
Right.
And those that don't know, Jerry was already an established executive working with the big rock acts and Marvin Gaye and the big Elton John and
everybody.
Yeah. So Jerry was respected, but Jerry had interest in this R&B music that was morphing into what we know today.
He was kind of a staple at Makola. He and his friend Maury.
So he knew Don McMillan. They were old buddies.
And they would hang out there, and they talk to the various acts that will come through to sell their records.
And Makola was like obviously they weren't the only pressing plant. Why did people go there? They were very receptive to this music. Don was willing to strike deals.
Don didn't know a hit record from a hit inside the head.
Yeah.
But Don had one thing that everybody could use. He would give you credit. You could take Don.
He was willing to take a risk.
He would take a risk. You could take Don your masters, and Don would play them up, get labels done, put them in white jackets, and ship them out.
But he started he would start offering. He'd start soliciting the record.
Okay, he had a small sales staff, he had a radio staff, and a few times he got lucky.
And he'd mainly be shipping to the one-stops?
Right.
One-stop distributors?
Local distributors.
Okay.
But he had a couple of problems. One, he didn't have a very good bookkeeping system. I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't a very good bookkeeping
system. He was winging
system. And he was, what he wanted to do was ahead of the times, because there was no QuickBooks back then. Okay, there wasn't even any what's the other one, the spreadsheet,
Excel.
There was no Excel back then. Okay, everything was pretty much done by hand, and the computers they had, it would
written
take
in a
forever.
Notebook.
Right, written in a notebook, and if somebody forgot to write down a certain shipment, you just missed out on some money. So but he was the best, and I said in my book, he was probably the best and the worst thing to happen to a lot of us. You know, he gave everybody an opportunity. Okay?
He didn't wait. He leaded.
Right, exactly. But he didn't know. He didn't have any quality control. So
Right.
it back then it would cost you $700-800 just to take a record from tape to a finished product and actually press.
Get your lacquer, get your stamper,
stampers, masters, lacquers, everything.
Labels.
All that stuff costs money, and Don kind of overextended itself at some point in time. And as soon as if you have enough bad records, now you got to use the money from the good records to pay for the bad records. Of
course.
Which means somebody can't get paid like they're supposed to, and it just kind of imploded upon him.
Got it.
All this is in the book.
Yeah.
Everything is in the book.
There we go. NWA right
Not
there.
Not Alonzo, baby. Now, check out the flow chart in the back, read the history in the front, and you'll see how we got to where we are today. We'll come back to this in just a second.
Sure. So now, basically, how did it come about that Eazy owed you some money or something? You said, look, he wanted to meet Jerry, and you said you came up with the idea of charging him to broker the introduction.
Dre got into Eazy's debt behind some parking tickets.
Okay.
Eazy uses my studio to make Boys in the Hood and some other tracks.
Yeah.
Runs up a studio bill about $500. And Eazy was notorious about not paying people. Eazy was a dope dealer. Okay.
Yeah.
So he treated everybody like dope dealers, like crackheads for the most part. You owe you $500, he want to give you 20. Okay.
Right.
No, I don't smoke crack. I need my money. Okay. And we go back and forth, and he kept on playing. So Dre had hyped Jerry up to Eazy so much because Jerry had found some money for us at the union. We couldn't figure out. We got a CBS check. We had missed about $5 or $6 grand. Jerry found out what the money was, and when he found out what this money was, Dre just thought Jerry was a guy. Oh my God, Jerry Heller, and he sold Eazy on Jerry Heller. Now Eazy is pressuring me to meet Jerry Heller, but you owe me $500. Okay. Oh, I'll give you your money. No. You can piss me off now. I need $500 plus something else. Okay. So we cut a deal. I give you your $500 plus an extra $250, but you got to do it if you can expedite the meeting for me. I saw Jerry on a regular basis. Jerry was my manager already. So I asked him would he meet him, and he eventually did. He says, I told him I needed the money. No, I told him I could use the money. It's a slight difference. Who can't use $750?
Of course.
So he finally met him, and I never thought it would work, to be honest with you. I never thought these two would click whatsoever. And
you didn't think what Eazy had was that marketable at that point?
You know, depending on who you ask, it was, I struck gold. But no. It was a lot of doubt there because, first of all, you got the name, Niggas with Attitudes.
Right.
You have a Jewish guy representing the group named Niggas with Attitudes. Okay, how's that going to fly? And when he asked me, I'm like, hey, man, he asked me, how do I deal with that? I said, very carefully, okay? Very carefully. And, what about the music? I had cussing and blah. I said, hey, man, I did my job. I hooked y'all up, okay?
Yeah.
And the same thing with Greg Mack. I hooked Greg back up with Eazy. And, again, because there was so much cussing in the record, Greg couldn't play it.
So K-Day was started by then?
K-Day was on fire by then.
Okay.
K-Day was on fire, and everybody knew Greg and I had a relationship. In fact, Greg Mack wrote the foreword to my book.
Okay.
And in order for Greg to be able to play the record, it had to be edited. And that's what Dre finally did some reverses and some beats or whatever, and it made it clean enough where Greg could play it, and the record blew up after that.
So, now Jerry obviously took a liking to Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
Obviously, as we all saw in the movie, they started their relationship. Now, how soon after that did Jerry's time become more and more exclusive to Eazy to the detriment of the other acts?
Well, by that time, Jerry was managing Wrecking Crew. His partner Maury was representing LA Dream Team, and also Jerry was representing the Egyptian Lover. And the four of us, along with an unknown DJ, had formed our own distribution company called West Coast Record Distributors.
Sure.
And in doing that, at that time when Eazy first came out, he was getting so much media flack. We were concerned about being associated with him. Okay. And we called a big meeting at Martoni's restaurant in Hollywood. And
the one on Cahuenga?
Yep. Yeah. we had the back room, the mafia room in the
back. Oh
man,
the mob spot.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about. That's why I like
if the walls could talk at Marconi's.
If the walls could talk. We back in the room. This is a big room compared to that room. The table took up most of the room.
Right.
Okay. And rumor has it some of the biggest deals in Hollywood was cut in this room.
Yeah.
We had access to the mob room at Marconi's. We take Jerry in the back, and he's trying to convince us it's best for us to all stay together and let him become a power broker in far as West Coast entertainment. And at that time, you know, we experienced a lot of negative flack, and we were like, nah. And well, I can't say we. There was the atmosphere was we don't need to be associated, but I kind of felt like a hypocrite because I had put Jerry and Eazy together. Eazy had done all his demos in my studio. Drake was producing, you know, N.W.A. So I really can't say a whole lot, but the general consensus was either us or them.
Right.
Okay.
And what were you expecting Jerry to do at that point?
Do what he did. Go with them.
Okay.
Okay.
But you wanted to draw the line in the sand
we had to draw a line in the sand.
Figure it out.
And he stepped in, and at that point, by that time, Adrian Gregory, who was his assistant, was kind of managing Wrecking Crew, and we became friends, and Jerry focused the rest of his time on building N.W.A.
Okay. So, talk about Eazy meeting Dre. I know essentially the seeds of N.W.A. were formed right there in your living room in the studio.
Yeah.
Talk about any recollections of them clicking. Obviously, Dre was becoming enamored in this harder street sound, and Eazy was wanting to back him.
Well, you know, it was kind of a funny thing, man. You know, when I saw the movie, I had to laugh because, you know, the way things are portrayed in a movie, and the way things unfold in real life are sometimes not exactly the same. Okay?
Right.
And
they're enhanced.
They're very much enhanced, and I recall several conversations about we got to do something to shock the world because Luke Skywalker, formerly Lord Luther Campbell, formerly Luke Skywalker, was making big news with all his sexual stuff. Pornographic.
Hip-hop.
He got called into court by Disney, won the case, okay, for free speech.
Yeah.
They took away his privilege of using the name Luke Skywalker, but it changed music forever. Okay.
Right.
And they were trying to come up with something that was going to be attention grabbing and controversial, and that's what happened. You know. Okay. And when I see the movie, I want to change the world. I know what I want to do. No, it was kind of let's try to see what happens type thing. Okay. And it was like
so to get attention, they were shocking.
They were shocking.
They were taking common hit records and making them dirty.
Making them dirty, exactly. Yeah. And by that time, the crack cocaine epidemic was kind of peaking as well. So for the first time, you have gang lyrics with gang activity and money. Okay, you got money, and basically what you did, what happened is you provided. There was now a soundtrack for gang activity because gangs have always been around LA, but nobody really paid them any attention musically. This was the first time anybody gave gangsters songs they can relate to.
Okay.
So they took a lot of the stories of what they heard, and they translated them, they translated them into lyrics that people can relate to that were very melodic, very catchy, and it stuck. And so many people got involved in the gang culture and the dope culture. It became fashionable to be a dope dealer. It became fashionable to be a gangbanger. And I know for a fact, as a club promoter, when I first started, the civilian to gangster ratio was like 85% or 90% civilian, 10% gangster, and then at some point it just totally reversed. Everybody was a damn gangster. Everybody's claiming a set. Everybody's got a rock in their pocket. Everybody's, wearing, no longer wearing the skinny ties. They're wearing a whole different thing, and the attitudes have changed. So, it changed the streets forever. Not only LA, but around the world.
Absolutely. I mean, when Straight Outta Compton came out, it was like an atom bomb.
Yeah.
Fuck the police and how they were dressing and everything. No one had ever seen that on the West Coast like that.
That story, Fuck the Police. You want to hear about the real story behind that? One of the stories behind that?
Yes.
We used to all play paintball. We were one of the first blacks to ever play paintball in LA. Not the first ever, but play regularly. Russ Parr, Egyptian, Russ Parr, Arabian Prince, Rudy from the Dream Team, myself, Dre, and Yella. We'd hop in Russell's van, we'd drive out to Malibu, and we shoot paintball every Saturday afternoon when we weren't gigging. Eazy always wanted to go because we had a ball doing it. So Eazy was going to go, but he bought a paintball shotgun. And if you ever see the paintball shotgun, if you know what a paintball gun looks like, a paintball gun looks like something other than a real gun. Okay, it's very questionable what kind of gun this is. But a paintball shotgun looks like a sawed-off shotgun, it's about this big.
Yeah.
And audio achievements and my house maybe 3 miles apart. I live right off the freeway. And one day, while Eric was doing his he was enthusiastic about paintball. Every day he would come over to my house with this paintball shotgun, and he'd shoot stuff and have fun with it, blah blah blah. So one day, on the way to audio achievements, they thought it was a good idea to stick this paintball shotgun out the window of the car and shoot at cars on the Harbor Freeway. Well, little did they know that the exit on Torrance Boulevard, right just about a quarter mile up, is a highway patrol station. That section is always patrolled by highway patrol. Well, whatever happened, they stuck this gun out the window one time too many, and the highway patrol pulled them over, snatched them out the car, put guns to their heads, and almost killed them. Today they'd be dead. Okay? And when they came to my house, they were all crying, tears running down their eyes, shaking, because the police had done them so wrong, right? And I'm like, they coming out, man, they were just shaking. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all, man? The police, the son of bitches, man, fuck the police, fuck the motherfuckers. Man, what happened? What happened? Man, we was riding down the street, and the police snatched out the car, put guns to our heads, almost shot us. Why? Man, all we did was stick this paintball gun out the window and shooting their cars. Say what? You did what? Yo, man, fuck that, man. All we did was run down the street and shoot at some cars with some paintballs. Are you out of your fucking mind? And they didn't think that they was so immature and so silly. Yeah. They didn't think they'd done nothing wrong. Okay?
Sure.
But you upset the entire freeway.
Right.
You upset traffic. You're in Torrance, California. There's not a lot of black folks in Torrance, okay? And there's not a lot of black folks sticking guns out of windows, that's for damn sure. And that was one of the initiating moments that I recall, that I remember them all, fuck the police, okay? And shortly after that, that's when I recall hearing the song, started hearing the song, the lyrics of Fuck the Police. Now there may have been some more situations.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not, but that's the one that stood out most in my mind, of that these guys were almost got their brains blown out just clowning around. Okay? So when I talk about the Fuck the Police, that's what I talk about.
Any other stories of any of those other early NWA songs you saw kind of germinate?
Not really. A lot of the stories early were like were kind of stories of stories, you know, about the submachine Susie with the submachine Uzi. All those were kind of manufactured because they sound good, they sound daring, and you know, I don't know Susie or ever known her to go to Compton Court with the submachine Uzi. So a lot of the stuff was just very creative, and it was like gangster fairy tales. Okay? Right. A lot of it was gangster fairy tales because Ice Cube is a very talented writer, and he has a very vivid imagination, and he could take a bit of fact and turn it into a loaf of information. So, you know, that's my call. I could be wrong, but that's my call.
So obviously you saw this Straight Outta Compton record, Easy Does It Records, over on Priority, start blowing up. What was your thought when you saw this whole thing that was starting in your living room, and all of a sudden it was impacting people outside of LA?
First thing I said was, wow, no shit, because I know these guys, okay? Right. It's like you know, I know these guys like I know these guys rolling me today. And if you tell me certain things about these guys, it's going to be hard for me to believe. But because they were able to pull it off, and it's like, okay, if you pull it off, more power to you. Okay, I just thought it was kind of funny. Most of the people in the neighborhood who knew them knew they were real nice guys. They were not the characters they portrayed, but because they did such a good job at portraying these characters, the world believed it. Okay, and who am I to tell them different? If you want to believe in Santa Claus, ho ho ho, shit.
Right. I mean, it's entertainment. If you love the music, I mean, fact is, these guys didn't have to be murderers or hardened gang leaders.
Right.
You like the music.
Right. You know, and that's when hip hop was all about keeping it real, and nobody ever really vetted the artist. There was really no vetting or any doubt about anybody's history until Dre and Eazy fell out. It never Eazy knew Eazy was right there and watched us blow up as world class wrecking crew.
Right.
I took Eazy to the rodeo swap meet. Steve Yano was a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
So Steve bought Wrecking Crew records, he bought mixtapes, he bought everything. So Eazy was right there on a lot of some of our shows. Okay, so he knew what Dre had done prior to going to Ruthless Records, prior to Boys in the Hood, and it was okay until he got pissed off.
Right.
And when he got pissed off, he used it against him. Okay.
And obviously back then, we're talking Prince of the Revolution, we're talking Ready for the World, we're talking all sorts of suits and shiny this.
That was a requirement at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was show business.
It was show business. It's you know, back then it was show business. Now it's mostly shoe business. Okay. It's all about your shoes. You know, it's a totally different time. And you know, people laugh at us and clown us. Oh man, oh you guys had them shiny suits. Yeah, look at everybody else. We were talking. You weren't born yet, so you won't understand.
Yeah, you had to be competitive.
You had to be competitive. We were the first rap acts on a lot of the shows, a lot of the R&B shows. We were opening for Mary Jane Girls. We were opening for the Barcades. We played with March Day and the Time. We played with Ready for the World. We played with Tony. Wrecking Crew, Tony. Only other rap act that I recall playing with in the early days was maybe Rapping Duke or somebody, okay? Everybody had their costumes. We were playing with Force MD. These are R&B groups.
Yeah.
So these guys come out in red suits, they dance around. We can't walk out with tennis shoes and holding our nut talking about yo. That's not going to fly. So we had to be competitive. And in order to be competitive, we had to rehearse. And that's probably what broke up Wrecking Crew more than anything. The fact that I required us to have rehearsals on a daily basis. We had steps, we had choreography. You know, I take performing very serious. I take it as very competitive.
Yeah,
so
it's like sports.
It's like sports. When I walk on the stage, back then, people would ask you who turned out the show. You know,
Right.
Who turned it out? That's
Could be a 5-act bill, and they go home talking about one of the acts.
Okay, I mean we're playing with Wrecking Crew played with Zap. I mean, who the hell gonna follow up behind Zap?
Right.
You have to kick some ass to be able to play behind Zap.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to be able to throw down. We don't have no drums. We don't have no guitars. We can't do no solos. So we got to go out. We got to leave it all on the stage, just to be able to compete and be invited back. And that was my thing. Again, we're not out there with cats, with no stage presence and this, that wasn't gonna fly back then.
Right. Had to be a show. The audience expected it.
They expected it, and you had to be pretty.
Yeah, and to get to the bigger venues, the Forum or the Universal Amphitheater, you had to be a show topper.
That's a big stage. You got to fill out.
Yeah,
we weren't just playing on high school stages. We were playing on full-size arena stages. So you got to leave DNA on every inch of that doggone stage to be considered a viable act, and that's what we did.
So in viewing, the aftermath and seeing the movie Straight Outta Compton, obviously there's embellishments. It is a movie. A lot of people say, well, why didn't they cover this? Why didn't they cover? It was already 2.5 hours. I mean, what do you want, a 5-hour movie?
Right.
It wasn't an encyclopedia. It was a movie.
Right.
And obviously Dre and Cube executive produced it, so it's going to be more or less their story, how they want to be telling.
Right.
Anything else in the movie that was kind of really stood out as like, wow, that wasn't really like that? Anything else? There we go.
I was really a hater. I was more of a creator.
Yeah.
I was not the hater of hip hop. In fact, I was the innovator. I'm the one when Eazy brought his demo tape into the house. Everybody else laughed. I'm like, dude, don't laugh. Stranger things have happened in the music industry. At that time, one of the biggest acts was Biz Markie. Okay?
Right.
He's never been one of the best rappers, but he had a hit record.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, even Madonna wasn't the greatest singer, but look at her 30 years later.
Okay, so when you talking about the music industry, we got songs like Double Dutch Bus. Okay?
Yeah.
Never heard from this guy again, but it was a hit record. And I'm not saying Eazy was like that, but this is the record business. Everybody's entitled to one hit.
Look at Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
You know, I mean,
you got guys that that can't carry a note in a bucket and have hit records. And because I'm a very open-minded person, I thought the guy, it was a good song. It wasn't nothing wrong with the song. Okay, and Dre laughed at it, and Yella laughed at it. Oh man, look at his voice. He don't got no bass in his voice. These kind of things were the conversation. Just like with Miss Shirley, oh man, fuck that. Wait for Mona. And again, if you hear the story being told, everybody wanted it. Nobody knew her but me. I'm the one brought her to the studio. I'm the one brought her to the table. So I think it's about time people hear the truth, and that's why I wrote the book.
Sure.
Not Without Alonzo. We're gonna plug it again. Available on my website, alonzowilliams.com.
So was it natural that Dre kind of hooked up with Miss Shirley? They were both kind of. Because obviously Dre was a playboy. I mean, it was famous. You guys were. There's pre-AIDS. The girls were everywhere.
Dre, and I said this in another documentary. Dre would literally talk the draws off a woman. Dre would tell her whatever he wanted to hear to get what he wanted. Okay, I've always admired that about him. He was very. If he set his sights on somebody, she was going to have
relentless.
It's going down. Okay, and. I don't remember when they got together. They kind of had we had kind of went our own ways. Turn Off Lights had been done. It was a hit record. We broke up right after that. And next thing I know, I heard on the streets that there was a deal waiting for whoever at Atlantic. There's a deal waiting for somebody for Atlantic. Whoever had Miss Shirley signed to a record deal. And I'm calling trying to get to her, and she barely would take my phone call. And when she finally told me that she was no longer in the record industry, I'm like, okay. Then I found out she was signed to Ruthless. And then I also found out her and Dre were intimate. And I'm like, you got me again. Yeah. So, it is what it is, Yeah. But, it's all in the book.
Sure. Now, obviously, J.J. Fad had Supersonic coming out with Arabian Prince, and Rudy from L.A. Dream Team had that one. That ended up in Eazy's hand. Any story behind that? Anything you know about that one?
We had our record. We had left Macola, Rudy, myself, and I think I spoke of this earlier. Rudy, myself, Unknown, and Egyptian Lover, formed our own distribution company called West Coast Record Distributors. And one of the first records we had was J.J. Fad Supersonic. Okay. It was on Dream Team Records. Arabian never really cared for the business end of the record company. He was with Bobby Jimmy and the Critters on Rapture Records, and he did this thing. And Supersonic was the B cut. It was not the A cut. Okay. They flipped it over one day, and this song takes off, and they're flying off the shelf. And I believe Arabian was also working with N.W.A. Although he wasn't in the movie, he was working. He was
on the album cover.
He was on the album cover.
Yeah.
He was a member of N.W.A. And I guess they made him an offer. Made Rudy the offer he couldn't refuse, and gave him some money. And they took the album over to Atlantic and blew it up. Yeah.
Technically, that was the first hit record on Ruthless because N.W.A. was on Priority.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was Ruthless was an imprint label at Priority,
right?
And where it was actually Ruthless Records at Atlantic.
Yeah, yeah. So, in talking about Jerry Heller, obviously you had respect for him. He had done a lot in the industry. Obviously, he helped formalize, Eazy's vision for this Ruthless label. What's the most misunderstood thing about Jerry? Because again, Jerry didn't speak to the public that much, so there's a lot of misconceptions about him. Can't say anybody's an angel, but what's the biggest misconception about Jerry?
Oh, that he stole all their money. And I would never say he stole anything. Okay, that's why he's never been sued.
Right. There's audits and lawsuits all the time.
In documentation, if I ask you for something and you give it to me, a contract, if I ask you for something, and ask you for your publishing or your name, X amount of percentage, and you give it to me, I didn't steal anything.
Right, you agreed to the terms.
You gave me the terms. So if you don't take care of your business, that's not his responsibility.
Right.
Okay? Now, there may have been a little conflict of interest sometimes, representing the company and the group and the artist. And that's maybe a little bit of gray area. That's for somebody else to decide.
But today it's almost commonplace.
It's almost
you can manage, run the label and all that, as long as you're not double dipping.
Right. So, people, that was probably, what I can say, was probably one of the biggest things. He had the juice to make it happen. I couldn't have made it happen. Okay. My forefathers probably would have thrown me out the window if I'd have tried to bring Larkin Arnold, a group named Niggas with Attitudes, back then.
Right.
Okay. That wasn't gonna fly. If I took Gerald Busby, a group named Niggas with Attitudes, all these NAACP award recipients would have had me in a rotisserie like a pig.
Right.
Wow. Okay. You must be out your goddamn mind. But because it was tried and it was tested and it made money, today it may fly. I don't know. But back then, in the 80s, my positioning was not
wasn't the most marketable angle.
Exactly. It took a lot to be able to fight that resistance, because you had C. Dolores Tucker and everybody else rolling over Ruthless Records and bulldozers and the whole 9 yards. So when that flipped over and became popular, that was the first response. Okay, nobody wanted it around. It was it was a big anti-movement. But at some point in time, everything flipped over and they became gods.
Right.
I don't know if Crew Cut could have withstood the initial wave of negative response.
Sure.
They came at me directly.
So it wasn't just the N.W.A. record, but Jerry went out and got them deals with Atlantic and Warner and MCA, and the roster was all over the industry.
Right.
So, again, Jerry's got his book, Ruthless. I think he's super underrated and very misunderstood. Again, no one's an angel, especially coming from the early record days. Things were done a little more different. The artist was kind of, on a lesser rung.
Right.
These days, a lot of artists can control a lot more because of the clout they have.
Right.
They start negotiating better deals, renegotiating deals, and
again, everybody, like people talk to me. How you let somebody like Dre get away? Dre wasn't the Dre back then.
Of course.
Okay? He wasn't the Dre back then.
Right.
Okay? The Dre now wasn't the Dre back then. He was a silly kid.
Yeah.
Running around, screwing everything he could possibly screw.
Yeah.
Okay? Telling jokes, having a good time, falling asleep in my car.
Yeah.
Getting parking tickets. It's not.
Couldn't get arrested by the record industry.
Right. Okay? Nobody could. None of us could. And because of what I did, and you'll find that in that book, not Alonzo, these are the things that I had to do, or the way I had to pave for everybody to be successful here in the West Coast, not just Dre. Eazy, Cube, Battle Cat. A lot of folks came through the tree of Lonzo.
Yes.
So that's what the book is primarily about. It tells you the road that I had to travel to be the Godfather of West Coast hip hop, and why I'm considered the Godfather of West. I'm not a great rapper. I can rap, but I really don't. I'm a pretty good DJ as far as house parties go. You never see me in one of these Hollywood clubs playing. Yeah. I'm not a big producer, but I did so much. Okay.
Yeah.
I did so much: club owner, record label owner, performer, songwriter. Now I'm an author, and all these things spurred other people to do the same thing. Like people ask, why is it that between Avalon and Central, there's so many prominent acts come out of this Centennial High School area? Well, not all about Lonzo, but Lonzo was on Avalon, which is only a mile from Centennial. He provided entertainment for a group of for a generation of kids. He went to Central Avenue, down the street from Centennial High School, and had Doodles and Skateland running simultaneously. So as I'm at Eve After Dark, you got a generation where you got the Dre's and the Eazy's coming through. Meantime, while I'm at Doodles, you got DJ Quicks and all these, and the Second and None and the High Seas watching us at Doodles, watching Rudy Parties coming through, Egyptian Lovers coming through, Uncle Jam's Armies coming through. So we're creating another wave of interest. And then then this other kid is born, Kendrick Lamar, who sees all these guys before him. He's admiring the Dre's and the Eazy's and the Quicks, and he's inspired to do the same thing because everybody's just such a powerful industry, musical history in this one little square area between Rosecrans, El Segundo, Central, and Avalon, and the only person that was really responsible for all that was me.
Yeah. Well, we're looking now at the family tree, and it's huge. Dre has got his multi-billion-dollar deal with Apple.
Yeah.
Cube is a mogul in Hollywood, making shows and movies, and got his son out there as a hit actor now. New generations, everybody's coming, like you say, from Kendrick Lamar to The Game to so many great artists. I mean, you must be proud that the West Coast is being recognized, certainly with the Straight Outta Compton movie and all that's coming out. We know the talent pool out here is undeniable. Right. We can talk about the South and New York all they want, but we know that we can stand with the best of them, and there's just way too many talented people out here.
When I think about my career as a DJ, promoter, record club owner, record club owner and record label owner, and I think about, because nobody wanted to be from Compton. One of the first fights we had as a world-class record crew is nobody wanted to be from Compton. Right. Nobody wanted to be from Compton but me and Clientele. Clientele lived in Udima Village. I'm from Compton, Centennial, Vanguard.
People just want to use L.A.
It's a big part. No, they want to be from Carson, Paramount, and these are things only I know. Okay, the fights that we had in my house, because they were some folks were ashamed of Compton for a while. Okay, I've never been ashamed. I've always been proud of Compton. Compton is my home. Okay, and to see Compton be put on the map the way it has, okay, makes me proud that I was a part of that. Okay, and I led the way on that, musically especially. There's nobody, except for Toddy T. Only person that put Compton on the map or represented Compton before me was Toddy T and maybe Mixmaster Spade. But nobody had the success and the lineage that I've had in the city of Compton. So I'm very proud of what we've accomplished. In fact, at the premiere of the movie, was the first time I've seen Ice Cube in over 20 years. And I made my way over through a crowd of security guards, big linebacker cats, and he saw me. Lonzo, hey man, what's up with you, dude? Gave me a big hug, and he says, hey man, you know what? First thing he said to me, after he said hello, I want to thank you, man, for allowing us to be at your house and hanging out, me and my fellas, Jinx and KD. We were just knucklehead kids, and you put us on back in the day, man, and this is what it turned out to be, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. We took a picture together, and, contrary to the movie, I'm a sensitive motherfucker. Okay? I'm a sensitive cat, okay? And I'm like, man, to have a cat in his position tell you thank you.
Yeah, he didn't have to say that.
He didn't have to say that, man. Not many cats have done that, okay? Not many cats in his position have done that, okay? To say thank you, man. I appreciate what you did for me and me and my folks, and you put us on the track. You let us hang at your house and record with us, blah, blah, blah. And,
anything less than a lane to run in, he may have gone back to college or went into architecture or something else.
When he left my house, he was going to Arizona State to be an architect, okay? When I saw him again, he was on television, he was a gangster. Like, damn, what happened? Okay? But, hey, man, if that's what makes your boat float, sail on, bro. Okay? Sail on. And you know, I'm proud of all of them. I couldn't be more proud of the guys if they were my own kids.
Sure.
Okay. And I just think that sometimes some people have to be able to separate the two. Okay. And that's the only problem I have. It's not the entertainment. It's just that sometimes, like when I was a kid, an old karate movie, first thing I do when I come home is try to break a board with my hand. Okay. I try to break a board with my hand and mess my hand right now is fractured right to that hairline fracture for life. I'm trying to break karate boards with my hand. And that's the only problem I have with some of the gangster rap. Some of these guys actually try to live this stuff out without the proper training.
Right. Yeah, the morgues and the prisons are full of people that have been trying to emulate this.
That's my only drawback, because nobody has really vetted the artist, and they think the artist is who they are on stage and who they are on record. No, this is a character, man. This is a character.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger didn't kill somebody when he made Terminator.
Thank you. Okay. Neither does, and you never seen a yellow Camaro do karate down the Harbor Freeway. Okay. So it's a movie. These are characters. This is fantasy.
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment, and as long as it's used as entertainment, I have no problem with that, man. It's when people try to live it out and blindly take the word from the CDs and try to implement them and find themselves doing life sentences or doing any time whatsoever. You know? And that's why I'm kind of a spokesperson for it. This stage in my life. Sure.
Well, like I just told you before the camera started rolling, I came in about 90, 91, and I thought your story should be told.
Thank you.
And the movie companies didn't know what the hell we were talking about.
Right.
You know, so it's good to see it today.
This book is the prequel to Straight Outta Compton. Read this book. You'll get all the details, all the stories of how the West was won. Started with a little tie-tongue DJ out of Compton, California, that was lucky, that was blessed, whatever you want to call it, and was able to connect with a kid from his neighborhood. Me and Dre lived on the same street. I'm 8 years older than Dre, but his father lived on my street. Okay? And I see Dre, little snotty-nosed kid running down the street, whatever the case, paying no attention. It wasn't until he was 16 years old he came to my attention. Okay? As, hey man, my name is Dre. I'm Theodore's son. Okay? I'm Teddy's uncle. I'm Teddy's nephew. I'm Deborah's nephew. And that's when we connected. And this book tells you the whole story. Because people think that these guys fell out the sky like a Terminator and just lightning bolts came out their asses and I'm here, I'm super producer. No, man, this is a 20-year, 30-year process.
Just like a sports star. They were in the Sandlot and they went to junior high school and graduated.
You don't wake up one day and hit 50 home runs in a year. You have it's a process.
Right.
Somebody usually coached you, like Mike Tyson would not be who he is if it wasn't for Castamata.
Yeah.
There's no Mike Tyson.
The mentor.
Castamata. Huh?
The mentors.
Without his mentor, there is no Mike Tyson. And it wasn't like Lonzo was just lucky with a Dre. I got Q. I got MC8. I got Battle Cat. I have Michelet. I have all these folks who came from my camp and blew up, and they're still very, very relevant. And that's not many people can say that, especially from South Central or Los Angeles or Compton.
Certainly. Well, we encourage everybody to go check out the book, N.W.A, Not Without Alonzo. What else is there? What's on the horizon? What else would you like to do in the future?
I'm looking for a movie deal for this book right here. I'm looking for a movie deal, okay? Y'all found one handsome brother to play me in Straight Outta Compton. You can find another bald-head brother to play me in the movie. Along with doing some speaking engagement, Doc. That's my big thing. I'm doing a college tour. Wrecking Crew, Clientele, and Shakespeare and I are talking about doing some oldie but goodies too. Oldie but goodies, that's the wrong term. Old school tours.
Right.
Okay. That's on the horizon. So, right now I have a radio show I do on the Morris Media Group every Wednesday from 3 to 4. My book just came out. It's on AlonzoWilliams.com. And, man, I'm just trying to, like everybody else, reinvent themselves and move it to the next level and do it the way I like doing it. Having fun, making a few dollars.
Well, Alonzo, it's been a real pleasure as always. Can't wait to spread the news on the book.
I appreciate it.
look for the next chapter.
Thank you.